Hello, everybody, and welcome. Did you realise that this is the 39th time that we've walked through the doors of the Ritz in Piccadilly in order to go to the tea room and join together to enjoy a lovely cup of tea and possibly something stronger and just chat and have a really, really lovely time. 39 times we've been in here together, and how brilliant has it been to discover new friends, new friendship, new fellowship with other women. And that's really what I want to talk to you about today, the fellowship that we find from joining in with groups of other women. Excuse me. So I've had a lovely weekend. I hope you have too. It wasn't very eventful at all. The weather was quite nice, so I did pop out on Saturday to get some food, social distancing, making sure that I stayed safe, washing my hands as soon as I got in the doors and so on. And that's the level of the social contact that I've had for a couple of days. But it's been fine. I've enjoyed myself. I did go to the cinema, and I managed to occupy my time very fully. So no great problems with that. And I hope you had a lovely time too. Now, I know that you like to know what I'm wearing, so I'll tell you. I'm now starting to drag things out of the very back of my wardrobe after, 38 other trips to the Ritz. I'm certainly getting low on novel and interesting and different tops to wear. I've got a new Pizookie top to wear tomorrow, which I look forward to showing you. But this is definitely something I've had for a while. It's a blouse from Jigsaw. It's quite nice. It's got these sort of sleeves with a quite a nice cuff on, and with it I've got this necklace which is almost like a perfect match to the colour of the blouse. This I bought a long time ago in Phase 8, but I think it's a great necklace. It's got this sort of silver bits down here, and the earrings that I'm wearing are from a company called Georgina Scott. She sells her jewellery through Phoenix, although is also online, and I've got 2 or 3 pieces of Georgina Scott jewellery. They're a bit more at the expensive end, but they're quite original pieces. She does she concentrates and mostly does hoops, so she's famous for hoops, and you can get some lovely hooped earrings from her, or some more unusual ones like these. And the other thing that's making me laugh, and this is a comment that I picked up on the Super Troopers page, is how much you're enjoying my cushions. I love it that you love my cushions. Yes, I do actually choose them to sort of coordinate with what I'm wearing. But I haven't got that many cushions. In fact, I've got on this long sofa, I've got 6, but they're from design. If you want to know, they're from Designers Guild, and the big one, that's this. You can see what that one's like. What I did, when this sofa came, I bought this sofa from John Lewis, and as you can see, it's grey. It came with these grey cushions to put along a sofa, and I decided to buy some material from Designers Guild. So I bought this material, and I sewed it to the front of the cushion that came with the sofa. So I just literally cut the square out and sewed it around the edge, and I did that with 2 cushions. And then I went into, I think it was John Lewis, and I discovered that the same sort of colourways was made in ready-made cushions by Designers Guild. So I bought them in green, and the other side is this sort of chartreusey, yellowy kind of colour, and also this purple, and that's one side, and the other side is pink. There you go. Now you know all about my cushions. I hope you enjoyed knowing about my cushions. Somebody said to me the other day, well, it was somebody at work, and we have this Google Hangout every day at 4 o'clock with my team, and they said that apparently if you're cool-toned, like I am, you tend to choose furnishings that are also cool-toned because they're the colours that you're attracted to. So I looked around my flat and I thought, OMG, she's absolutely right. Every single colour that I have in this apartment of mine is cool tone, which is why all my cushions go with the clothes that I'm wearing. So there you go. That's how to get your cushions to match what you're wearing. Make sure that if you're warm toned, you have warm toned colours, and if you're cool toned, cool toned. So, as I said today, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about female fellowship. The support that we can get at certain times in our lives from groups of women. And the reason this sparked me for a conversation with you on a video is because I've been absolutely blown away by what has happened since the pandemic broke out and we went into lockdown with Super Troopers. Now, I know some of you don't like Facebook, you don't want to join social media, and you're not at all interested in finding connections via that platform. However, when I decided to do these videos, I also at the same time decided to launch a special closed group on Facebook for people like-minded older women who might like to come together during this really difficult and challenging time to support each other. And it has been the most fantastic success in that we've now got nearly 3,000 members in that group, but it's the members themselves that have made it successful. And I love being on that platform. I go onto it several times a day just to check what people are saying. I leave comments myself. Sometimes I actually put up a post which is relevant, I hope, to whatever people are interested in. And it is turned into this fantastically powerful and amazingly supportive group from all over the world. And that's another thing I love about it. We've got members in Germany, we've got members in Spain, Portugal, and quite a few in Australia. Hi guys, and also in the States. And what is incredible is that we're all in the same boat. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, you're likely to be locked down in some way, shape or form and protecting yourself from this terrible, terrible virus. So, how brilliant has it been to find this resource, this wealth, this amazing group of women who are there getting to know each other, posting pictures of themselves, looking so glamorous, wonderful colours and earrings and hairstyles, and they're saying, I've cut my fringe, what do you think? And of course they all love, most of them anyway, Look Fabulous Forever makeup. So it's also become a resource for information, for good brands, for good ideas, for all sorts of things. And we've had some fun as well, because in addition to all that, we've had an Easter bonnet competition where, a very smart hat or a fun hat that you've actually made from things in your garden, perhaps, or things that you just happen to have in your sewing room. We've had another competition, Turn Yourself into an Artwork, which was absolutely phenomenal, the results of that, the people that participated in that. What creativity, what flair, what humour, stunning. And it's just been the best fun. We've had series of photographs that have come up, like my wedding day. Now, a lot of us got married like I did. I got married in 1970. So, I was wearing a midi dress and a white hat and white lace boots, and I put a picture of myself up. And then we had tens of hundreds possibly of photographs of people on their wedding day. It was fantastic. The 70s was an amazing time for weddings, lots of hats, brides getting married in hats, which I'd forgotten, to be honest with you, although I wore one myself. We've had pictures of ourselves as children, and so many other things that I could tell you about, but it's been the best fun. We're just about this week to launch another feature we want you to participate in, which is going to be a sort of almost like a COVID style fashion feature that we want to do, because I'd like to write a blog in a couple of weeks' time showing photographs of you very stylish women and what you're wearing in terms of your COVID style. But perhaps one of the things that will get you to show us is what you would wear if you were really going to go to the Ritz next week. What have you got in your wardrobe that you'd think, yes, that's going to be my outfit for the Ritz? It doesn't have to include a hat, I have to say. So look out for that. We'll be putting that out on Super Troopers probably next week. This week, I mean. So female fellowship, we've certainly found it on Super Troopers in bucket loads. The fellowship of like-minded females and worldwide. Now, in my life, over the last, since I was a young adult really, I have also at certain times found groups of women who have given me the most phenomenal support. And that's what I want to talk about now. There are 5 occasions that these belonging to these groups has really, really impacted on my life in a very positive way. And I'm sure you have your own. And maybe, again, this is a feature that we can have on Super Troopers so that you can share your experience of this kind of thing. The very first was I got married in 1970, as I just said, and in 1974 I was pregnant with my first child, and like all first-time pregnancies, filled with a certain level of trepidation and needing to have some support. And of course I found it, as a lot of women did in those days and still do, from the National Childbirth Trust. So I joined a group locally. I lived in Basingstoke in Hampshire then, and suddenly found a whole load of other pregnant women, many of whom were roughly the same age as me. I was 26 at the time. And suddenly this group became my friends. But when the baby was born, perfectly healthy and fine, we moved house within about 10 days, and we moved to another part of the country. We moved to Hertfordshire, and I was stuck in a new house in a completely new area. I knew nobody, and I didn't know what to do. New baby. So I joined the National Childbirth Trust in Hemel Hempstead, which is where I was living. And again, because the National Childbirth Trust was full of young mums, all having experienced the same that I had experienced, it was a fantastic group to join. And it meant that immediately, my little baby had other little babies that she could get to know. In fact, when my second baby was born, Susie, 4 years later, I was still there. And I was actually chair of the local childbirth trust by then. And I can remember on Susie's first birthday, we had about, 14 one-year-olds all surrounding Susie on the carpet in my sitting room with their mums. So the National Childbirth Trust was the first time that I found this very powerful female fellowship when I was going through something where I needed support. The second time that I joined a group was in the late 80s. My then husband and I moved through his work to Sweden. So again, a bit like with when Anna was born and I moved to Hemel Hempstead, I moved into Stockholm and I knew nobody, absolutely nobody, as you can imagine. And I was also, of course, I was in a foreign country. I was trying to work over there because I'd been tasked by the consultancy that I worked for in London to start the business of selling management training in Stockholm from scratch with no contacts. So I was literally cold calling companies and saying, do you do training for your personnel? Can I come and talk to you about what I could do? It was very tough, very, very tough. However, I was told about this very interesting group of businesswomen in Stockholm, and maybe I'd like to join them. So I went along to one of their meetings, and this was very early in my time in Stockholm. It was within the first 2 or 3 months. So I went along, and they had a meeting. It was at dinner time, and I sat at the table with these amazing women. Beautiful because they're Swedish, but they were just so friendly and so nice. They all spoke amazing English. And I sat next door to 2 people who turned out to be, human resources directors, training managers of banks. So I chatted to them, told them what I was doing, and they both said, I'll give you my card, come and see me, that sounds really interesting. And my very first work in Stockholm came through the networking that I did with the women in this group. They were putting on a conference on the future of management later on in the year, and they immediately co-opted me onto the committee so that I could help them to write all the materials, which were all going to be in English because it was going to be an international conference. So it was a fantastic way for me to immediately get to know the kind of people that I needed to know in order to get my business up and running in Stockholm. I will never forget their kindness, and I will never forget just how how welcoming they were to me, a foreigner, in their country, and just how supportive they were. It was absolutely brilliant. The next time that I discovered or I decided I wanted to get to know people locally was when I moved into Wimbledon. I told you a little bit about the story about how I bought this apartment that I still live in at auction. So I moved from Chiswick, one part of London, to another part of London, and again I knew nobody here except one person in this road who's a long-term friend of mine, but I didn't know anybody in the community. So I decided to join a book club. And this was a book club run by a man called Gerard and Gerald, maybe. So I thought, oh, this is a great way to meet new people. So I went. It was in a pub, so I went along, and it was a mixed group, so it wasn't just females, although there weren't very many men there, and I did like a lot of the women that went. And all was well for about 6 months until I twigged that none of the books that we read were by women. They were all chosen by Gerald. He chose everything that we read. And I said to him after about 6 or 7 months, why do we never read any books by women? And he looked at me as though I was mad. It's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, have you noticed how you only ever choose books written by men? Do you ever read books written by women? And he just looked at me and he said, no. As if that was the most normal thing, ever. So I said, well, I read a lot of books by women, and I can't believe that you can't, you're cutting off 50% of the potential of the most amazing books ever written by only reading men. Anyway, he kind of threw me out of the book club after that. Slowly but surely, I was kind of marginalised and it was really weird. Anyway, I left the book club. I never went back, quite happily, I have to say. Then I had this idea of launching a makeup business for older women back in 2013. And my thought process was exactly the same as it had been in other places where I've needed to find a group of women. I joined a local women's group, business women's group. So it was called Wimbledon Women in Business. Fantastic group, amazing women there. In fact, 2 of the women that I met there are now in the team at Look Fabulous Forever, so that they actually work with me. And the very first thing that they offered to do for me in the group was to do a makeover on somebody and show the makeup, and they became customers. So it was a fabulous way for me to start the business and get some good contacts. And then finally, I have fairly recently, as you know, become a bit of a fitness freak. A very bizarre thing for me to be, but it's true. And I've joined with a group of women who work with Lindsay, who is my personal trainer. And twice a year we go away on what we like to call a retreat, which sounds all very serious and sort of meditative and almost like we're a group of religious sisters, but I can assure you it's nothing like that. Quite a lot of strong drink is taken. We have delicious food because Lindsay makes sure that we have a brilliant chef there, and we go away to a beautiful country house, either in this country or we go abroad. We should have been going this weekend. The weekend I should be there now, in fact, in Jerez in Spain. So we've been to various places, and we just have the most brilliant time. Just laughter, fun, enjoyment of each other's company. And they really are an exceptionally lovely group of women. So I have found this fellowship with other women all my life. In various places when I've needed it, when I've been lonely, when I've been away from home or away from the places that I've been, used to being, and it has made all the difference to my life. And I feel like that about Super Troopers. What an amazing group of women, and thankfully we have found each other, and we are still supporting each other through these difficult times. So I've got a little poem to finish with. It's about friendship, and it's by A.A. Milne, and it's about Winnie the Pooh, and it's very sweet. Wherever I am, there's always Pooh. There's always Pooh and me. Whatever I do, he wants to do. Where are you going today, says Pooh. Well, that's very odd, because I was too. Let's go together, says Pooh, says he. Let's go together, says Pooh. What's twice 11? I said to Pooh. Twice what? Said Pooh to me. I think it ought to be 22. Just what I think myself, said Pooh. It wasn't an easy sum to do, but that's what it is, said Pooh, said he. That's what it is, said Pooh. Let's look for dragons, I said to Pooh. Yes, let's, said Pooh to me. We crossed the river and found a few. Yes, those are dragons all right, said Pooh. As soon as I saw their beaks, I knew. That's what they are, said Pooh, said he. That's what they are, said Pooh. Let's frighten the dragons, I said to Pooh. That's right, said Pooh to me. I'm not afraid, I said to Pooh, and I held his paw and I shouted, shoo! Silly old dragons, and off they flew. I wasn't afraid, said Pooh, said he. I'm never afraid with you. So wherever I am, there's always Pooh. There's always Pooh and me. What would I do, I said to Pooh, if it wasn't for you? And Pooh said, true. It isn't much fun for one, but two can stick together, says Pooh, says he. That's how it is, says Pooh. So indeed, it's never so much fun when there's one, but when there's two, we can stick together. And when there's nearly 3,000, we can definitely form a powerful group. So thank you for listening to that and watching it, and I will very much look forward to seeing you tomorrow when I will be wearing my Pizookie blouse.